Most people are learning AI completely wrong. They're stuck doing what worked 5 years ago, watching Python tutorials, building projects, and maybe tinkering around a little bit with ChatGPT, and then wondering why they never really understand how AI works. The truth is, AI has evolved. The tools, the speed, and even the way you learn it, it's all changed. I've spent the last 5 years as an AI consultant and now in my own AI agency, helping billion-dollar companies figure out how to use AI inside their business and not just talk about it. And what I've realized is that most people who truly get AI today aren't the ones who know the most code or the most syntax. They're the ones who know how to connect automation and tools all together and turn it into something that actually moves the needle. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to learn AI the right way, the modern way that actually makes you dangerous and irreplaceable in this new era. You won't need a computer science degree. You won't even need to know how to code, but you will need to think differently. We'll look at how people use AI right now and why that method's outdated. And then I'll show you my new craft framework, the same one I teach to clients to actually learn and apply AI by building it in real life. All right, let's jump in. Okay, so most people who traditionally learn AI or any type of coding, to be fair, they use pretty much the same method, these ones for many years ago. So what you'll end up doing is you'll see people, they'll jump into every software that you'll pretty much find yourself in. Maybe you start off with Python and essentially the list can keep going on, right? You can learn all these different packages, all these different language softwares. And to be honest, most of the time, yeah, they're super useful to know. But if you just want to start off, you don't really want to be doing all these different tools. And then eventually people will, go to Coursera, or what they'd want to do is just learn from university. These things take like 3, 4 years. So you're spending that amount of time of being able to just learn every single tool out there. Um, really for what? So the first step really that people do traditionally is just learn to code. I think that's the answer and the starting point for learning AI. After they learn to code, you know, then maybe what they end up doing is try a small capstone project. So generally what you end up seeing is, maybe this will be, I mean, these can all vary in time, but this can be maybe 6 week. This can be a 6 week project at the end of the course, right? Doesn't really do anything, to be fair. It just is a project you end up doing based on the sole skills that you generated with these coding software. And yeah, this is great. This is the point where you've actually built something. You can be super impressive, but you kind of have to wait for all of the coding stuff to be completed first before you can even start this project. So, not the best. And then people will say, hey, look, I've got these amazing skills. I've gone to university for 3 years. I've even worked on a small little project using my coding skills. I'm going to apply for jobs, you know? And what they'll do, they'll say, hey, I want to go to a fan company, or I want to go to even to be honest, you know, other non-tech job, right? They've got all these skills, but they're not even really applying it. And half the time, what are you even doing in these companies? You're just kind of at the bottom of the barrel. Maybe you make some, maybe when you're applying for these jobs, it takes like years and years. You've kind of got all these skills from coding, you've tried a small project, and you're just applying for jobs, hoping you can one day apply those skills that you've learned properly. And then the last step is working on some AI projects. All right, you've done the hard work, you've gone through university, you've generated the skills, you finally landed a job at maybe a great tech company or any company that allows you to do and practice AI. But in reality, and this is from my own experience of, knowing what these companies end up doing, is that most of the time you don't even actually end up doing AI. You'll be cleaning data, you'll be working a lot actually. 99% of the projects, the harsh reality is most of it is just, data engineering. So you'll just be building pipelines and that kind of thing. So you might get a chance to work on AI projects. And even if you do, these AI projects, what you'll end up seeing is that there'll be, POCs. So things that are, let's test it with some data, right? You're not really productionizing anything. 99% of stuff is like that. So, these are the 4 steps that people traditionally do. And that's not really the best way, in my opinion, to learn AI. 5 years ago, you can have done that, but now we've got great tools, great technology, great resources to be able to learn it a different way. So, what is that different way, you might ask? So, I like to call the different way the right way, because in my opinion, this is right. So, it's a 5 step framework I like to create. It's called CRAFT. So, challenge, research, automate, feedback, and tell. This for me is the best way to make yourself irreplaceable in learning AI. And I'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail, explain what the step is, and really why it's the best way to learn AI. So the first step is called challenge. That's the C. And this is about really thinking deeply about the challenges that you face day to day. It's not about coming up with some fancy business idea or someone else telling you, these are all the challenges I have. You want to self reflect a little bit and see, what do you face in your day to day life that is maybe time consuming? This can be really simple or it can be, a bit more complicated. So, for example, maybe it's, building work. So, you've got loads of repairs going on in your house and you're struggling to find somebody to end up fixing all of them. It could be if you're someone who loves to travel a lot, it could even be something like, you know, um, finding flights, and this can essentially go on. So you want to do a process of really reflecting on all these challenges, big or small, that you end up facing. And really just list them out and do this kind of reflective and brainstorming activity on this space. The next phase is called research. So, what you want to do is pick a problem and understand the steps that are currently being taken to really solve it. So, remember our problems on the left hand side about the challenges that you ended up facing? You want to pick one of these and try and make it simple for your first one. So, if I take the example of building work and you're someone who has got lots of repairs that you need to be done, but you're trying to find the right builders for it and you want to say, okay, what do I do in my day to day life in order to solve that problem? That could be something like, okay, first identify what's broken. Then I go online and I look up all the builders who can solve that problem. And then I make a list of all the phone numbers and finally I try and call them. That could be an example of a small problem that you want to try and solve. And do this for maybe you just have to pick one. But if you find things more complicated and you're struggling to really solve them, just pick another one because you've got that massive list in your challenge section here. So right now, C and R really are about finding the right problem and finding your right problem, not anyone else's. Okay, the A in here stands for automate. So this is a little bit of a step jump to go from research to automate. In research, you've got your problem. You've laid out step 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you solve it. And now you want to use a tool like NAN is the one I use, which is actually beginner friendly if you want to go simple. Or you can use make.com or really any other tool that's out there to actually build your first AI to try and solve it. And really here, ChatGPT is your friend. If you're struck on, okay, how does that flow look like? Or what components do I use in this? Really just look it up. You have the opportunities there to do it. And you want to make your first problem really simple. So if I'm someone who is looking at, if we go back to the building example, I want to say, okay, what's the first thing I do? The first thing is I find the problem. So maybe you have some like a form or an entry point of finding a problem. You then want to use ChatGPT to really describe it in a lot of detail for you. You then maybe want to put it through and do some research on potential people who can solve it. And then finally, you want to send that to your email or send a message to yourself, something like that, right? It's just 2 or 3 steps. You want to figure out a simple problem that you can essentially do. The great thing about tools like NAN is there are a lot of out of the box templates. So if there's a problem that is really common to a lot of people, you can just pick the box, you can just pick the template that really is the best fit for you to solve that problem. So this one's going to take a bit of time for you to iterate, but really what we're doing here is building something very quickly after you've identified a problem. We're not learning how to code. We're not, you don't need any fancy, coding experience or whatever to be able to build this. A lot of these are just low code, no code tools. And you can actually build something fairly quickly in just 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on your problem. Okay, the next step here really is called feedback. So let's say you've built your prototype of your AI. You now want to just test whether it actually solves your problem and whether it works. The great thing here is you've got the problem. It's about you and you can test it on yourself. So does it actually get me information on builders? Does it give me good contact numbers, for example? So this is where you want to test it on yourself. You might want to test it on some family members, and you want to iterate on small things just to make it improve, just to improve it over time. So maybe if it doesn't describe the problem in enough detail, maybe you want to change your prompt in AI, or maybe you want to, use a different software or a different method of getting builders, for example, right? So this is where you're making small little improvements to help you improve and automate, um, to improve your AI essentially. And there are loads of great courses. Again, use ChatGPT. You can, plug your uh, AI into your AI agent that you're building out into ChatGPT, get some feedback, and literally help you to be able to build it. And the last step here is called tell. So in this framework, you actually want to be able to share what you've built. Now, if you're building it for yourself, there's 100% going to be other people facing the exact same problem as you. So you want to post it on YouTube, LinkedIn, X, whatever social media you have, and just, share it. Especially as you're going through the journey, you want to make sure and help other you want to help other people and bring them along with you too. So this is actually a really crucial point because you can get some feedback, you can get some help, and you can actually be proud of the work that you ended up building. Now, a lot of this framework is actually pretty iterative. So the first one's going to be slightly trickier. You're going to build it, but slowly over time, you build one. It's not going to take months and years, like you would with a traditional course. You know, um, After you build this, you can build a second one. And your second one hopefully should be just 1% better than your first one. It might be on a different problem, and you can make it slightly more complicated. You can make it slightly better. And slowly over time, you'll gain a portfolio of different AI things that you've built that actually solve your problem rather than waiting years to learn the coding skills, to apply it maybe in a job, and then you've got your first experience after 4 years. So this is way faster. It's actually way more effective and will make you irreplaceable because you're just going to get through so much volume of what you're able to build and solve actual problems. And that's the difference right here. You're actually picking up the problem first and finding the right solutions to be able to build it out. And so I really hope you end up using and applying this framework and it ends up being quite useful for helping you learn AI. If you're still stuck at the stage where you're struggling with ideas of really what to build, I've actually got a guide down below of about 50 AI use cases that you can try out right now. Now, I will caveat this. These use cases are more geared towards businesses because as part of my own AI agency, I generally solve problems like the ones in the guide down below for businesses. So if you want to use those as inspiration, go ahead. Equally, if you do own a business and you do want some help figuring how all of this works, also feel free to get in touch. More than happy to help you guys out. And so with that, I'll leave you guys to it. Make sure you remember craft, and hopefully it helps you on your own AI journey. With that, I'll catch you guys later. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.